What up everyone, it's your man XMan87 here bringing you a special video, and what I have for you today is a random review. So before we get into everything, if you could please leave a thumbs up, like rating on the video, it'll help show your support for my channel and I greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to introduce a new segment here where I pull out a random figure from the past in my collection to review just for fun. It could be anything from any line like Marvel Legends, DC Multiverse, Mythic Legions, Mezco, imports, etc, etc. Basically anything I collect that I haven't reviewed before, mainly figures from the past or close to present day. I'm considering calling it random retro reviews, but anyways, I figured this is a fun thing to spice up the channel a bit. Now with that said, it's time for me to show you the figure I'll be reviewing, which is the Marvel Universe Giant Battlers Goliath. This was a 2-pack series for that 3 3/4 Marvel Universe line that included Iron Man. I don't have that nor any Marvel Universe figures, as I had to sell that line to pay off some medical bills when I was severely ill. So I won't have any comparisons with them in this video, but this series had great offerings that complemented the 6-inch Legends line, with the likes of one of those offers being the Frost Giants. As we are hot off the heels from Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and being a huge fan of Hank Pym and Scotland too, basically I mark out big time for the Ant family, so I figured it'll be fun to take a look at the third persona of Hank Pym, Goliath. First thing I always want to take a look at is the head sculpt, because we want to make sure that, you know, they captured the character correctly, and my god, David Vonner just killed it with this head sculpt. This whole line, David Vonner absolutely crushed it. It was a great line. One of the best Marvel action figure lines that was ever put out, in my humbled opinion. And just look at that face sculpt, man. The goggles or visors, whatever you want to call them, let's just call them eyewear, they came out nicely painted in a metallic gold. Very subtle metallic gold. Definitely has a nice shimmer to it. I love it when they sculpt the design on what's supposed to be an all spandex suit. It just gives it more details to the costume. And as you can see, they sculpted the line work here and it's painted on top of that. So it just brings out so much more out of the sculpt, brings more life into the figure. And you can see right there the ears are painted as well, or you know, those little earmuffs. And the face sculpt it's just a stellar job. I like that look. It's just so nice. The seams sculpted, it's painted cleanly. It's a spectacular head sculpt. And this figure measures up at exactly 1 foot tall. And the body work to this figure is pretty decent. You know, at the time it was good, but now, you know, it's like, does it hold up? You know, there are things you can point out that aesthetically just doesn't work anymore. But it was basically a reuse or retool of that Marvel Legends Icons line, Cyclops. So you can see it's the exact same thing with some slight retooling. And it just looks, you know, for Goliath, it looks good. If you have him standing on your shelf, you know, you're going to be like, oh, that's Goliath. You know, he just fits in with your Avengers. And I love the colors to this. The colors just pop. It's got a nice yellow tone. You get some metallic gold in there with the eyewear and the belt. And the blue is beautiful because you get some nice shading that highlights that blue. And, you know, we'll take a closer look. The accuracy to the costume wasn't completely nailed all the way, as he's supposed to have the spikes on his gloves and on his boots. Just like this Goliath right here. And we'll also take a look at this Marvel Legends Goliath, because this was offered in the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive 2015 Ant-Man Evolution set, I believe. And basically this was meant for the 3 3/4 line. They just put a Marvel Legends in, but it'll work for that line, and he's just on the Bucky Cat mold. So I think this was, at the time, it worked for what they were going for. But like I said, let's take a closer look at the body work right here. And you can see it has a nice angular body shape on the upper torso. So that looks real nice. And you can see some of that nice blue shading on top and even on the back. You'll get it right here above the elbows. And where else? You get them on the back of the legs too. Like, you get them on the back, you get it on the front, you know, near his pecs and abs, and the thighs as well. So yeah, you know, they weren't cheaping out here. They really gave you shading all around, and it's beautiful. They did not skip a beat here. And then we look at the yellows, and I always said Hasbro has perfected the yellows over time. I mean, it's a hard pigment to capture in paint, and they did a great job nowadays. But sometimes I feel like they did a better job back in the day here, because as you can see, you get some darker yellow tones. So it feels like there's some yellow highlights, you know, on this figure. And something that the Sentry figure could have used. Because if you look at all the way at the bottom here, like on his ankles where the wrinkled folds are, you know, you get these darker yellow tones. And it does add some life to the costume. And you get it on his wrist, right there on his hands. This is just really, really nice. The pins here are poking through because, you know, they weren't doing pinless at the times. So you're gonna get the yellow pins that poke right there in the inner arms and the inner legs. My main problem with this figure aesthetically was the ball jointed hips. Oh man, that just looks bad. As you can see, they're kind of protruding. It's just off with the waistline there. So again, that's just how they sculpted it in the Marvel Legends icon line. You know, you got the seams here. It just makes these trunks look like diapers. Yeah, it really does. And my man's got a giant flat ass right there. But you got some seams because, again, it was reused from that Cyclops. I believe it was the Astonishing Cyclops that had the seams right there on the thighs from the Icons line. But yeah, again, that shading is so nice. And you get the boots right there. We'll go over articulation, of course. But yeah, that's pretty much it for our Marvel Universe Goliath. I'm a sucker for the blue and yellow color combination. Maybe it's just an X-Men fan in me, but, you know, I would love to see Goliath in the MCU donning a blue and yellow costume, whether they give it to Hank Pym or, excuse me, Scott Lang, basically, and they're not going to give anything Michael Douglas now, he's just old, or a flashback scene with Bill Foster Goliath, because we already have a Goliath in the MCU. It was basically Bill Foster, but, you know, I don't know if they'll cast a younger, because it was who? It was Lawrence Fishburne, right? Yeah, so I don't know if they'll cast a younger person to throw a flashback scene. It would be cool just to see that uniform just one time in the MCU. And for articulation, you don't get much. So his head looks all the way, yeah, I'm saying all the way like it's gonna go any higher than that. So it just goes that far up. And then not even much down, actually. I don't know what this is on. I can't tell if it's on a ball joint. Well, obviously there's got to be a ball. There's no hinge or anything, so I'm not gonna dare pop off the head. But it's just weird. It does move left and right, and you get a slight pivot, at least somewhat, you know. And then his arms move very far up, so that's cool. It moves down. You can move them up and down and all around. And it's very ratchety. So you got that. You got the bicep swivel, got the double jointed elbows, and a wrist swivel, wrist hinge. So the articulation is all there in the arms. You got the ab crunch that moves that far forward and that far back. Not much back at all. The waist swivel is kind of limited. I feel like this belt hinders it big time. So you're only going to get that much. I'm not even going to bother rotating it full 360, so no. You got the legs. Because of the ball jointed hips, he can make a full split, and his legs can kick up about that high and about that. My god, I hate these ball wide joints, man. They kick that far back, it just looks so ugly. They can't rock around. You just gotta angle it and use it almost as like a multi-directional ball jointed wrist that you've seen on Mezco toys before, and any company that implements that kind of POA. You got the thigh swivel, you got the double jointed knees, and yes, heel to the Goliath. Can we get heel to the Goliath butt? Almost. If he had a little more ass, we probably could have gotten a heel to the Goliath butt. And his ankles move that far up, that far down, and it swivels. Sadly, no ankle pivot. So we definitely need an updated Goliath that could give us updated POA. And like I said, we'll take a look at the Marvel Legends version 2, and the head sculpt is nice, just like the 12-inch version. You got the goggles or eyewear in a nice metallic gold, but you know, the head design is not sculpted, it's just painted on, and it goes all around. He doesn't have the earmuffs, they're just regular ears exposed, as you can see. And that's nicely painted, thank God, because the rest of the figure suffers some paint flaws. But, I mean, the head sculpt came out real nice. He's on the Bucky Cap mold, which at the time, it wasn't played out like crazy, you know? So, it wasn't a big deal at the time. Again, for what they were going for, this was meant for the 3 3/4 line, just borrowing a Marvel Legends 6-inch mold in the Bucky Cap. You know, it works because it looks great next to the Marvel Universe figures. But as you can see, yeah, some of the paint is just jacked up. And one thing I do appreciate is that they painted the pins on the outside. So I appreciate that big time. I like when they used to get the colors correct on both the outer and inner legs or arms on any of the characters that had patterns like that. So they colored the pins on the knees as well. This one's missing though. This is like blue, so I had some QC issues with that. And you know, yeah, I'm missing some chunk of paint there. Doesn't connect to the torso unless I like move it up. Does it have some shading? It kind of looks like it does, but then it doesn't. Yeah, that's weird. This is a new belt. I don't think they reused this ever again. Maybe I'm wrong, but you get some metallic gold paint right there. But as you can see, they did the spikes on the gloves and on the boots, so that's one thing they got right here. Don't know why they gave him an open hand. Doesn't have alternate hands. I'm sure I could grab someone that has yellow hands. They should have just gave him both like fists. Like, it's not like he could grab one of those 3 3/4 figures, because those figures were way too thick for him to even grip on like a leg or an arm or something like that. But I'm very happy to have this in my collection. And with these two figures standing side by side, you can have somewhat of a growing effect going on. It would have been nice to have a figure in the middle. Well, basically we do. Toy Biz did it back in the day, but that was a reuse from their old 90s line, and it never worked for me. Basically, this is all we get with the same, almost identical costume. And this size works for me. And honestly, we can get 12-inch figures as BAFs now with their new windowless packaging, because they don't have to worry about, you know, remember those figures that had like no accessories? They'll have like one small BAF piece, but have like 6 inches of emptiness floating around. Now they could just cram everything to one box. So, I mean, come on. This arm size can fit in the new windowless packaging. This leg size can fit in a new windowless packaging. This torso can fit in a new windowless packaging. Now, I'm not trying to defend the windowless packaging at all. I'm just mentioning some good that could come out of it, because I miss BAFs that were this big. I'm sure they could do them this size in one big set like they did with Surtur. Speaking of size, now that we're on that topic, I'm going to bring out one of my favorite figures of all time. The Marvel Legends Toy Biz Build-A-Figure Giant Man. And I got a question of the day for you guys, right? Giant Man, right? If Hasbro's going to do a Haslab Giant Man, ideally, how tall should Giant Man be? In your mind's eye, how tall should he be? Because let me tell you, the way Toy Biz did it right here, he's 13 inches tall, right? In the comics, his default size is 12 feet tall, right? Obviously, he can grow bigger. So this size works for your Avengers. This size works. It's his default size. But does he really have to be 26, 27 inches like the Sentinel? Does he really have to be 32 inches like Galactus? Does he have to be bigger than that? No, I don't think he does. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to be this size. That, that's fine as long as they don't charge freaking $400-500. Honestly, for me, I think 20 inches is fine. I want him to be easily movable. Not like the Sentinel and Galactus where, you sometimes it's a struggle to get them poses, and while they are fun figures, it can be aggravating sometimes to get that pose that you want to get because of the weight and all that stuff that goes in. But, he doesn't have a lot going on, like those intricate details that Galactus and the Sentinel require. You're looking at a dude with a spandex suit. Now, I do hope they don't just paint the design on him, like his gloves, his boots, his design on the torso. It's just painted. So I really hope they go the extra mile and actually sculpt the design. So I figured this would be a fun discussion, because I kind of have a feeling the next Haslab will be Giant Man, especially with Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantumania is just, and the figures coming out around the summer. That's probably around the time they might reveal it. So I think that's a good time to hype the Giant Man figure. I could be wrong, but my gut feeling is Giant Man. Now for tiers, what would you think they can do for tiers? Because what I'm thinking is, and this is just me, what about like a growing effect? That would be really cool, right? We have a 20-inch Giant Man, and then like a 16-inch, and then maybe a 12-inch, and 6-inch figure, 3-inch figure, tiny figure, to have a nice cool growing effect. I think that would be really cool, but at the same time is like I don't know how many people would want the same figure in a different size. So but again, just kind of brainstorming here, guys. We'll just have fun with it. That's something that would look phenomenal on a shelf, and even packaging too. They could do a really amazing job with like a growing effect kind of packaging. But it could be the tiers could be some of his other personas, and I do feel like we might get an updated Goliath, and that would be a great opportunity to update this figure, because I would love to have an updated Goliath for the Marvel Legends line. Because I mean, with this one, you've seen the ankle swivel, no ankle pivot. I mean, the ball jointed hips. Got to give him the double diaphragm joint. That's one thing that needs to be done for the Giant Man figure. And as far as having toe joints, I could do with or without them, but I think for me, I would want them. Just because I would want to get him in some cool kneeling poses. They might give us a classic Giant Man. Hell, they might even give us an Ultimate Giant Man. They're pushing the Ultimate Captain America in the Puff Adder wave, so it's a possibility that would be a great opportunity to tackle a Ultimate Giant Man as well. Not saying that would be the main offering. I think the main offering will be the classic style Giant Man like this, but as a tier, that would be pretty cool. So I'm just curious, and I do feel like maybe, and this is gonna piss some people off, they might do Yellow Jacket as a tier, and I want Yellow Jacket so bad. My Yellow Jacket Marvel Legends figure broke. I might go back and get the Marvel Universe 3 3/4 one to put on my shelf. I just had the little tiny one that came with was it Wonder Man, I believe it was. So I would really want a Yellow Jacket, and I feel like they'll give us a 6-inch Yellow Jacket as a tier. Or they could give us a bigger Yellow Jacket, you know what I mean? Maybe they could give us a bigger size Yellow Jacket and give us a regular size Yellow Jacket in one of the waves. Who knows? Or they could just give us a deluxe size 12-inch Yellow Jacket that's packed in with a 6-inch Yellow Jacket, 3-inch Yellow Jacket to kind of have a cool growing effect. They could do that too. I'm just trying to think out of all his personas, what could be tiers? Obviously, they could give us an Ant-Man that's all pinless. We're getting the Scott Lang Astonishing Ant-Man. I mean, they could give us that classic Hank Pym Ant-Man with the lab coat. Oh, that'd be nice. I hope it's a soft goods lab coat, so you don't have to worry about swapping arms or anything like that. Don't limit the articulation, because that would be really, really cool. Removable helmet too, or just have an alternate head that has the helmet molded onto the face and have an unmasked Hank Pym. That would be really cool. So there's so many possibilities that they can steer it around with that Haslab. Maybe a classic Wasp too. If they don't give us Goliath as a tier, I would love to see him as a premium deluxe like they did with Surtur. And supposedly the rumored super adaptoid is about to be 12 inches tall. So again, they can definitely do something like that. So I don't know. Again, share your ideas in the comments below. I'll be curious to read them. And it's going to make for a fun discussion. So on to comparisons. Now for some comparisons, here I have Goliath next to some Marvel Legends classic Avengers, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, Hawkeye, and Wasp. Here he is next to the Marvel Universe Bill Foster Black Goliath. I only kept the big guys from the Marvel Universe line as they just blend in perfectly with Legends. Here is Goliath next to the Marvel Legends Hank Pym Ant-Man. Here is Goliath next to the Toy Biz Marvel Legends Giant Man Bath. Here we have the Marvel Universe Goliath next to the Marvel Legends Goliath. And lastly, here are the two Goliaths next to the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Marvel Universe / Infinite Series Ant-Man Deluxe Set Giant Man figure. And I also brought out the Marvel Legends Giant Man from the Ultron Bath wave that matches with that Giant Man. I'll be retiring these big guys from my Avengers shelf because as much as I love Hank Pym and all his personas, it's a lot to have all these Hank Pyms on one shelf. It hurts me as I love the character, but saving space for some more Avengers members is important to me. So you won't see them anymore on my next collection video. I'll just keep the Legends Goliath on the shelf for now. If they come out with an updated Goliath this size or bigger, then I'll have to put that version on the shelf. And now to wrap things up, my final rating is a 7.5 out of 10. It's a really cool figure. It doesn't hold up in articulation, but it does hold up in paint and being imposing on the shelf, making it sustainable. But for its initial offering in the Marvel Universe line, this figure brought that fun variety and scaling that I loved about that line so much. I hope to see its revival one day over these grossly overpriced 3 3/4 retro figures that only give you 5 points of articulation when the Marvel Universe figures gave you plenty of articulation in the same scale for only $10. Hopefully we get to see some more oversized variety and scaling for Marvel Legends that are not Haslab that can be between the 12 to 16 inch range. This was fun to go back and revisit, looking upon further inspection of some things Hasbro did better back then that we don't see any more of nowadays, and also what they've done better now that they didn't do back then, and hoping for a good balancing combo going forward instead of seeing which way the pendulum will swing, either the good side or the bad side. We need it consistently steady to stay strong. We will see if Goliath makes a comeback to the line as either a deluxe, a bath, or in a Haslab. I will end it by saying that this figure was meritoriously rewarding to have its presence on my Marvel Legends Avengers display for so long, and a holy grail in the Marvel Universe line. Now I kick it back to you. What do you think of this Goliath? And are you interested in this kind of mystery review style to tackle figures of the past or close to present day? You never know what XMania87 may pull out for a random review. Comment below, let me know, we'll chat about it. That was my random review. Please follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at XMania87. Hit the notification bell so you always know when my latest videos are up. Share and subscribe if you're new. See you on the next video. Peace, peace.